I'm learning out that my foster mother does not like me very much. In fact, she tried to give me away. For money. I'm going to get more into that because this story is very, very intense. But let's start from the beginning and I'll tell you how my adoptive father saved me. I used to think that good people attract such favors that'll never make them suffer in life. Do well, play safe, be kind, have compassion, and never be hateful. Those were my life watchwords. Watchwords. I had thought that life would always smile back at me and bless me with showers when I sow seeds of kindness with a cheerful heart of smiling face. Well, little did I know that people don't always give back what they get. It all depends on their interests, their motives, and obviously their general expectations. Then, did I get it all wrong from the very start, I wonder? It all depends on their interest, right? I'm still doubtful because the good girl in me is gradually fading away into the figure of a stranger that I can barely even recognize. That is a transformative phase I'm going through with my family. At least that's what I've always known them to be. I was born in an unknown place found on a deserted farm at about a week old, and raised in an orphanage until I turned age 2. Then I found a perfect family. That was the story recorded in the orphanage books of recordings. But the last part seems to be different from the records. You see, ever since I was 12, I had a desire to become a fairy. If that would mean growing wings to fly away, probably to another planet, well, that was what reading fairy tale books calculated for me. I can't forget the horrible treat my foster mom gave me on my 12th birthday. Usually a date was randomly picked for us at the orphanage based on our actual perceived age. It was a dry day for me, as usual. My foster mama woke me up with a birthday song. For the first time, I heard her sing for me in 10 years. 10 years that I've lived in that house, and I felt my life was going to take a different turn. Maybe I had finally won her over with my kindness, but she had an ulterior motive. She ushered me out of our blindfold at the time and claimed that she had a surprise for me. I was scared, but excited at the same time as she led me by my hand outside my small, stuffy room, which was nowhere as cozy as Greta's room. Ugh. You see, Greta is my foster sister and the favorite of everyone except for me. She's, instead of smoke in my eyes, as her mother, as nothing more than a thorn in my flesh. I was led to the kitchen on this notable day. When my eyes were uncovered, I expected to see Tara Ann, something special. Yes, I did see something special, but in raw form. See, I was told to make food for everybody at home since it was my birthday, plus a special delicacy for Greta since she's picky with food. I was rendered a clapping ovation to encourage me to input my best skills into it. See, cooking was not a big deal for me. I've been doing that since I was 4, when my hands couldn't even stretch over the kitchen's pavement, and then I had to use a stool to support my height with the aid of the cook as my tutor. I felt I was being trained to become the future maid of the Rowland family, but for some reason I decided to see it as a bonus to my skill, thinking that I would make a good housewife and a mother one day. I just needed to cheer myself on to keep doing the best that I could until I won my unyielding family over. So I cooked for everyone, and I was commended, but to my surprise, nothing entered my mouth except for the aroma that kept my nose snuffling for some time. Well, I just stood beside the dining room to watch others have their meal. After the meal, I was told I had a gift for my cooking skills, and that would require a little adventurous travel. Travel, huh? What could it be this time, I wondered in fear. My foster mom never ceases to surprise me. It's been a heap of surprises since they adopted the meat age at 2. I could barely distinguish between good and bad people, and I was a lovely child who was noted for liveliness in the orphanage. And when they came for me, I was glad that I found a new family. Though I was little, I was bright and smart and had my way to impress people with my impressive words, in which I knew my foster father was captivated, but not my mom. Greta was born 2 years after I was adopted, and by then I was age 4, and that made my life attract more misery. Ever since then, I had fought constantly to win everyone's attention and affection. I didn't try too hard with my dad because I could feel this tender love, even though he seemed distant. He doesn't relate much to me when others are watching, but he never lets me be wronged. All the bad things my mom ever did were behind his back, but she would treat me nice whenever he was watching, and often warned me not to be too interactive with him if I wanted her to like me. But Greta is as free as water, flowing with everyone, and nobody dares to complain about her spoiled attitude. But for peace to reign, I absorb every piece of trash that they dump on me with the hope of freedom someday. Several times I had to take my meal in the kitchen when everybody else was done eating except if my dad was around. But unfortunately, he would regularly go on these business trips since he was in charge of the family's business, leaving me to the wrath and railing of the woman I call my mom. I tried hard to figure her out, but she's too difficult to see through. The orphanage occasionally sent someone to check on me, but I was threatened not to say anything offensive if I didn't want to return to the orphanage. I would have loved to go back if that would offer me more peace, but I couldn't bear to return to a life that was void of identity. I didn't know who I was, but now I was called the child of someone. They all knew in school that I belonged to a prestigious family, and nobody knew I was adopted except in Roland's mansion, where they were witnesses to my lonely nights, silent cries, and crappy treatment. You see, I showed them care, respect, and love to the best of my heart's knowledge, but what did I get? There had been hatred all along. Greta is just like her mom, sneaky and a snitch. She's been influenced to display mischief in a cunning and silent manner. Yeah, she often lied to me to make me look bad before my father, who also rebuked me openly but came at night to check up on me and adjust my blanket while I closed my eyes, under the pretext of sleeping. He's the only one I can, partially rely on, since he still distances himself from me at times to avoid drawing attention. I think, but his reasons are unknown to me. It was an awful and scary incident at 12 that created a night phobia for me, from which I'm still struggling to recover. My mother asked the driver, who had been her right-hand man, to take me to the surprise trip that she'd promised. I hadn't eaten anything that day, and like I said, but I had to obey her as I had always done, hoping that she would be pleased and treat me even in a quarter measure as she treated Greta. I didn't ask for too much. So off we rode to a lone, deserted place where the car suddenly seemed to throttle. The driver asked me to get out so he could find an engineer to fix the car and promised to come back for me. I suspected a foul act and insisted on going with him, but he just prevailed against me and left me there in the cold. I was scared as I walked aimlessly around after waiting for hours and nobody was in sight. It occurred to me that I was found in such a deserted place as a baby, so that was the second time I was deserted, though I couldn't have the feel of the first episode since I was just a child, but hey. In a nutshell, I spent the night there weeping and terrified by strange sounds. Not until I was rescued the next day by an old farmer who returned me home. My father. He was now back and he was very, very worried, searching for me. The police were even involved, and my mother had told him that I ran off when she asked the driver to take me out shopping. I told my dad my story, but Mom denied it, calling me such a liar. Greta, who was 8 then, was her mother's accomplice. My dad did not say much, though. He just looked at me with pity and did not defend or condemn me. At least I felt at ease that he probably believed me, even in silence. Ever since then, I've been afraid of nights and would leave all the lights on, and my room is the smallest in the house. Almost like a store. I didn't mind as long as I had a place to lay my head. I tried hard not to complain about anything, but with all the efforts, their nerves kept emitting waves of hatred that were becoming too hard to contain. Even now, I'm still struggling to please my mom and sister, even if it means breaking my bat, yet they're never satisfied. My heart's gradually withdrawing from the warmth that I had for them. The space I've kept for them is here. It's becoming cold and cloudy. I'm so scared I'm losing myself, as I feel this cloud could just rain a torrent of madness any moment from now on. What do you advise me to do? Should I just run away and leave everything behind? But then, where should I go? Please, give me a little bit of advice. Update number 1. Hey guys, it's been 3 months since my last update, so thank you so much for your comments. I can't agree less with the comment that my foster mom does not give a damn about me. Well, as for running away, that's been sorted out because I'm leaving for school. I promised to update you whenever I had the time, so here I am. Again, with my family episode. One person who kept pushing me for it is my father. He appreciates me in his little way and even discovered my interest in art, and this ushers in my new update. He recruited me as an intern for his company to hone my skills. My mother had initially suggested I stay home after high school to help out in her fashion line of business, which it seemed to be undergoing a decline. She said that she wanted a family she could trust to lend her hand. Her business is under my dad's company's supervision because they're all involved in a variety of artwork in different sections, from fashion and modeling down to painting. They also sponsor models and collaborate with other companies with smaller interest. You may be surprised that Mom asked me to help her out in her business, right? She obviously had ulterior motives to tie me down. She didn't want me to further my studies, but little did she know her plans would backfire. My dad did not object, but asked me to join him instead, saying that he would sort things out with her business. I have an odd feeling that she seems agitated and insecure about me, but I'm not her rival. Why would I be? She always wanted me to stay there so she could control me. She wants to know my every waking move. As if she cares about me. She's a control freak with me, while she isn't like that with Greta, who's in high school, by the way, still. Yeah, talking about school. I'm excited to share this news with you guys. I got admitted to a renowned university in Australia, pursuing a degree in art. Let me let you in on the epicness that led to this development. I was in my room on a weekend about 2 months ago when my mother called me down. To my surprise, she introduced me to a strange man. He was averagely good looking, but had a ridiculous demeanor. He almost freaked me out in the 20 minutes or so that I spent with him in the main living room. I knew my mother was up to no good when I saw Greta grinning mischievously. After he left, she asked me if I liked him, and I told her no. She then said it was better if I started liking him because he was my future husband. Well, that statement sent some crazy quivers through my body, you know. It did. Luckily, my dad arrived from his outing and found us in a very controversial mood. He must have noticed anxiety written all over my face, so he asked, "What's going on?" And my mom told him about the good suitor that she found for me, and Dad's eyes widened in bewilderment. "What? That drug addict?" He yelled out loud. I was dazzled. Does she hate me that much? Did she have to go this far? These were the questions that clouded my mind. In a nutshell, my father objected and they argued for about a few minutes while I dragged my feet to my room. That day, my dad succeeded in ruining her plans to marry me off to some addict. It's another bonus in his account with me, you know. So, some weeks later, I told him I wanted to further my studies. I just needed to leave this house for now because I don't know what else my mother is planning with me. My dad, he pulled a few strings, and here I am, the newest student. So I'm set to travel down to school next week, and I hope to get in touch with you guys with better news. Anyways, goodbye for now. Updates number 2. Hello, my friends. Well, I hope you're all healthy, and thanks a bunch for all your encouraging words. It's been over 2 years. That's right. 2 years since we've interacted, and I've missed you all. As for my psycho foster mother, she really needs rehabilitation. Her recent actions proved it. Are you ready? Let's jump right into the meat and potatoes. I've been engulfed with studies at work and the same time in school, and I enrolled in a part-time job in Australia in the arts and fashion industry. Though I'm better at the fine arts, I also have a knack for fashion design. I finally had unhindered opportunity to draw some nice paintings, and I sold at a pretty good price. I just wanted to have a bit of financial independence. Who knows what the future holds? Well, I'm back home for a holiday, and I haven't been home since I left, but I miss my dad. A few horrible things happened within the few weeks that I was home. My 24th birthday was a week after I came back, and my dad planned a big dinner party for me for the first time. I must confess I was thrilled and brimming with exhilarating joy, but that did not last. Thanks to my foster mom and sister, they not only ruined my day, but did the worst that they've ever done. I was interacting with the guest and sharing my thoughts about my dad's business when I was asked for my opinion by a very prominent CEO, when the waiter offered me a drink. It was my first non-alcoholic grape wine, so I toasted with my companions and sipped a few drinks, and that triggered the hottest and most allergic feeling I've ever had. I felt hot, dizzy, and suffocated, and before I knew it, I started coughing blood and passed out. By the time I opened my eyes, I was within the 4 walls of a room equipped with a medical facility. I realized my breath was aided by oxygen and saw my dad beside me. The sight of him filled my heart with exceptional peace. I was poisoned, but it was blamed on the waiter. Reasonably, the waiter had no cause to harm me. He was just a stranger, so I knew there was more to it. The waiter was nowhere to be found, though, but I had other means to do my findings. I was discharged after 2.5 weeks of intensive monitoring and care, but I was afraid to go home. I told my father to lodge me in a hotel, and I was surprised that he was fine with it. Though he may not have suspected his wife, he surely knew the environment was toxic for me, especially when I just passed through the shadow of death. So, in the hotel, I had the chance to contact a few friends I made in school who also resided in the same country, and they helped me. They used their contacts to find the waiter, who confessed that he had never knew there was something in the drink, and to my surprise it was Greta who ordered it, warning him not to make it known and assuring him that it was just a kind gesture. After my breakdown, she warned him to leave, threatening him with long-term prison. The poor man had to do her bidding because he knew that in the end the rich and powerful always win. I wasn't surprised anymore at this point, but I was full of hate and disgust. I knew she didn't act alone without the backup, or rather initiative, of her dear mom. Why not play the character of a witch to tame these 2 witches I have at home? I asked my friend, who helped with the investigation, and, well, it's not a bad idea, I like that, he responded with a giggle. So it's decided. I'll be going back to complete my study while I prepare packages of surprises for my mother and daughter. I want to get them off guard when they least expect it. They felt my life was worthless enough to attempt to harm me, so they pity of the show that I was going to give them. Well, that pity show is over. That's it for now, guys. I'll catch you up later. Updates. Number 3. Hey, guys, I'm back. So, it's me, the survivor. Thanks for being caring friends. It's been almost another, few years since the last update? Well, I'm here to update you on the recent turnout. I'm done with my degree course and going back to the jungle I call home. Yeah, I admit that this is a jungle where predators always lurk around to prey on weaklings, so it's the survival of the fit. That's Darwin's survival theory, isn't it? Anywho, I refuse to be a weakling anymore. I'm now more of a cunning predator who gnaws at them when they least expect it. I guess you can't wait to know what this is all about. Well, then let me save you the suspense. Shortly after I arrived, I joined my father again. Greta will be graduating next year, and it's been her dream to take over from her dad. See, she did business administration with this hope, and that is one of the reasons her mother decided to attend a university nearby so that she could be around the business during breaks. One of my life's aim presently is to ruin all their plans, and I've been doing just that. See, I went to live with them again, but I was always afraid to eat or drink anything at home, so I settled for ordering food. Within a short period, my father promoted me to the gallery manager, and that submerged those 2 witches into a striking wave of anger. My dad isn't what he used to be because of his failing health, so he needed capable hands to handle some of the business. The gallery of artwork has always been Greta's favorite, so I was glad that she was very upset and I didn't need to use any tricks. After a while, I opened my fashion enterprise in partnership with my dad's company. With my savings and my dad's financial backing, he was proud of me and was willing to lend me all the help that I needed. I was sure my foster mom was boiling in rage, but I ignored her. My father did not listen to her as he used to anymore, and of course she noticed the drastic change in my attitude. I was no longer the quiet, obedient daughter I used to be. I answered her back outrightly whenever she said any trash, and I also put Greta in a strait whenever she tried to dominate me. She hated being insulted, and I gave her enough dosage of it. I practically competed with that woman and made her feel like a loser when I topped the list of successful associates in the fashion line. I was also doing well in the gallery. Well, later on, I found out that Greta had an eye for a new guy in town. It turned out to be an acquaintance in school who was also an addict, but, not many really knew this. I set the guy up with her without Greta knowing our connection. That's right, and she fell for him. They're now dating, and I'm sure that he'll hide it as much as possible of him being an addict. I mean, his addiction, It wouldn't be bad if she ended up in the shoes that they once tried to put me in. My father's health began to get worse, but he insisted on being treated at home. See, His health has deteriorated while I was in school, and he had been on drugs ever since. But now things have taken another turn. I went into my dad's room one day when he was fast asleep, and I checked his drugs out, of concern. But I saw something strange. The medicine was different from the one the doctor prescribed. How do I know this? Well, while in school, I had been getting updates from a close source, a very loyal friend that I have made in my dad's company during one of my internships. He told me about my father's illness, his inconsistency at work, and how my mother was often acting in his stead. I also contacted his doctor, who informed me about his weak heart. So I requested to know more about his treatment and prescription, hoping to get another medical opinion from some renowned doctors in Australia, who told me the prescription was accurate and that he would get better if he took it regularly. My mom administered these drugs to him, and he would just take them doubtlessly. Then I took some confirmation, and to my shock, they were strong depressants that are bad for the heart patient. They could trigger heart conditions. Before I hurried back home, she had given him the last dose that drove him into a state of shock. The ambulance was at our house conveying him to the hospital, and I hurried along. I explained to the doctors and asked him to help me whenever I needed as a witness, and he complied while we pretended we didn't know anything. He's restricted my father from receiving any guests, but secretly lets me see him. I never knew this woman, whom I cannot call my mom anymore, was this much of a psychopath. I'm hoping my father will turn out just fine. Final update. Update number 4. Hey guys. Thanks for the support. It's been 6 long months and a lot's happened. At last, all the puzzles were resolved, and it was a shockwave. My dad needed some blood urgently because of the blood-reducing effects of those drugs, and since we share the same blood type, which I always felt was a coincidence, I donated. But after the transfusion, the woman came running, trying to confirm it was only a blood transfusion. Her anxiety and questions made the doctor think her actions were strange, so the doctor connected some dots and conducted a DNA test. To our shock, I am the biological daughter of my father. How it all came to this was a mystery that was gradually unfolding. My dad came around, and after he had been stabilized, he was told the truth. But he didn't seem very surprised. He rather wore an expression of being caught. He knew all along, and that was the reason behind his hidden affection for me. It was his way of protecting me from that woman. He had a marriage of convenience, which was meant to keep both families' business growing. So he cut ties with my mother, who was his true love, because he didn't want to lose his inheritance. He never knew my mom was pregnant, but after months, he received a call from her to pick me up at a desolate farmland. My mom wanted to move on with her life and would not want me to be a barrier in her new path. My dad hurried there, but was late because I've been taken to the orphanage by some good Samaritan, but he traced me. After marrying my foster mom and securing his inheritance, he convinced her to adopt a child since they didn't have any yet. And that was how they came to adopt me. Yeah, I thought so too. What an epic twist. After finding out the truth, I was mad at him, but he pleaded for forgiveness, and I was mad for all the loneliness and rejection I suffered under his nose. All he could do was love me from afar after making me feel inferior to the one that was portrayed as the apple of his eyes. But in the end, I had to let it go. He was only being careful so that I would not be victimized, and after a while I ran into another stunner. My foster mom knew all along that I was my dad's daughter, but pretended to be ignorant all these years. We were in the hospital where our maid dropped by with her luggage, and what she said was a jolt to the system. She had overheard that woman calling a friend and talking about how she would get rid of my dad and me. She said that if she had not stumbled upon the DNA results months ago, after I was adopted, she would have been played for a fool. In other words, my dad did a DNA test after they adopted me to confirm I was his daughter, and kept the results in the library. How she came across it is known only to her. So, she had taken it all out on me from the start. Another shocker. A stranger had come around and threatened to reveal the truth about Greta in exchange for a large sum of money. From the conversation, the maid noted that the stranger was recently released from jail on account of drugs, so the woman caught the maid eavesdropping and sent her packing. In the end, Greta is not my dad's daughter, but a result of her mother's infidelity, which was also confirmed by a DNA test. So the real family is just my dad and me. We exposed that woman's crime and she was jailed. Greta was driven into frustration with all these revelations and ended up marrying her drug-addicted lover with the hope of securing financial stability since she's rejected my dad's help. Well, unfortunately, right? She found out later about her husband's addiction but had to just bear with it. Now I run our family's company with my dad and we live happily in our mansion. I just hope for better days that no witch will be able to ruin. Wow, that was an insane story. Let's check out these two comments and see what they have to say. This first comment comes from Faith32. This is really twisted, but it's epic. And you've got a happy ending, I see. I'm happy for you and glad that they got what they deserved. It's just still surprising how you turned out to be the real daughter. Yeah, I guess that's life. If you weren't patient, you wouldn't have experienced the good days that come to find you. It's good that you didn't just run away. Otherwise, you would not have discovered the truth about who you are. Anyways, good luck in your life. I'm glad I watched what happened. Comment number 2 says, what a story. But I don't seem to think that to be happy about how you and your dad put your foster mom in jail. I know she's bad, but she's still family. She might have acted out of insecurities all along. I mean, we're humans, you know. And to think that you and your father abandoned your foster sister is something that I cannot credit you for. Whether she is his biological daughter or not, he still raised her, anywho. So the feeling should be there. I'm sorry to say this, but that was cruel of you both. Guys, I want to know which of those comments you agree with the most, and if you can add a little bit of insight, drop it down below. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe for daily drama stories. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.